Hello, my name is Catherine Toomey, and I chose to read the book Where the Wild Things Are. This was one of my favorite books growing up, and I thought that I would look at it with a deeper meaning. Where the Wild Things Are by Maurice Sendak breaks the faulty cultural assumption that children are inherently wild and do not understand self-control, because it demonstrates a child choosing to return home from the wild things, rejecting the concept of being wild, and understanding that being wild is quite lonely. Noodleman states that children are inherently wild, born animal-like, and are not yet disciplined. He also made the assumption that children do not understand the need for law, order, and self-control. This book follows a boy into the world of his own imagination, disproving Noodleman's assumptions. First, the text uses the literary element of point of view. This story is told in third person limited, meaning that the author can display the actions of Max, but the readers don't know his thoughts or feelings. The use of this narration makes it easier for the readers to only focus on the things that Max is doing, the main character. This helps us to understand how Max is not actually wild. The narrator mentions that Max left the wild things because he stepped into his private boat and waved goodbye to them. This narration alone proved that Max had enough self-control to leave the wild things, disproving that children are wildlike. Third-person narration was able to capture the actions of Max, displaying that he did not want to be a wild thing. Next, the boy is dressed completely head to toe in a wolf's costume. What is interesting about this costume is that it is completely white. The visual representation by Sendak represents the innocence of the child. Max in his white wolf suit stands out from the other wild things who are mainly dressed in dark colors. This color demonstrates that the child was not born animal-like. He was born with innocent eyes and new ideas like most. He does not fit in with the wild things and eventually leaves. In the last page, Max is seen taking off his wolf costume for the first time. This visual proves that Max has law and order and self-control to step away from being wild. Max is seen rejecting the concept of being wild as he took that outfit off. Lastly, Max learns that being wild is lonely and not as much fun as he had anticipated. The author uses the literary element of repeated language and phrases throughout the story. Max in the beginning is pretending to be a wolf and terrorizing his room and his mother. In return, his mother says to him, "Go to your room." He says, "I'll eat you up." Eventually, Max travels to the wild things where he becomes the king of the wild things. Eventually, he grows tired of that and wanted to be somewhere where someone loved him best of all. Max decided to leave, but the wild things were not having it. In return for this, they said, "Oh, please don't go. We'll eat you up. We love you so." This is the second time that this phrase has been used, but this time it was said by an actual wild thing, and Max was the one who ignored it. By using this phrase again, the language was able to show how Max in fact did not want to be a wild thing anymore. He was no longer the one using that phrase because he grew lonely of being a wild thing. By the phrase being passed on from Max to a real wild thing, it showed how Max was not born animal-like and was able to mature. He was disciplined enough to give up being wild. The book was clearly able to break Noodleman's assumptions about children being inherently wild-like. Thank you for watching.